The Invest in Her podcast is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation and the producer of the new movie, Show Her the Money. And that's where I met my next guest at one of those screenings when I was in New York. Coming to us live from New York today is the founder of Zant. Welcome to the show, Maggie Rose Macar. How are you, Maggie?
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. I am so good. How are you?
Do you prefer Maggie or Maggie Rose?
You know, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I love Maggie Rose because I feel like most people don't call me Maggie Rose, and that is my first name. It's like Sue Ellen, Mary Jane. My mom's from the South, so you can call me Maggie Rose. Anybody super close to me calls me Mag. It doesn't really matter. I'll turn and I'll look at you if you call me either one.
Whatever you do, just call you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just call me. You can even go, hey, you, and I'll turn around too. So.
Well, you know, I just have really just love what you're doing and love your story and been excited to have you on ever since we met in New York. And I know you've been a big fan of Show Her the Money. You've done some great after screening events for us in New York, met and held other screenings. So thank you for your enthusiasm and support for the film. We do it because we want to bring awareness to founders like yourself who have these, you know, incredibly genius ideas of how to make things better. You know, you're a change maker in a specific arena. And so I want people to know about that because your new technology allows people to better access services for mental health. And so this is really important. And I want to talk about Zant from a user standpoint and also from the standpoint of, you know, it being for coaches and counselors and therapists. And so let's talk about Zant.
Yeah, for sure. Zant has evolved so much. And I think that's one of the greatest parts of this journey as a founder is to be able to follow along and be a part of that evolution and know that as your company is evolving, it is evolving in a way that it's meant to. I think a lot of founders get very nervous when their company starts to evolve and they think it's changing, and that means that their original idea maybe wasn't good or, something's not going to work out. And that's just not the case. So Zant has had its own journey of evolution. And it really started about 7 years ago.
And I just want to interject something there.
Yeah.
Every startup business, as it grows, has to pivot.
Yes.
So that's exactly what you're saying. Like, it's never always exactly the way you envisioned. It always has its growth that helps you expand and change and like you said, pivot, because that's how visions expand and come into being, is that you find, oh, this isn't what I thought it was, or I see more opportunity with something else. And so I think it's really important in a founder like yourself that I see that you're able to do that. The people that closed their business in COVID couldn't pivot. And so those are the unforeseen things that people can't seem to understand, that sometimes they have to pivot. And so let's talk about why you started Zant. I love when you shared that story with me. It's what I really made me so interested in what you're doing. And it's such a great solution and such a much needed software. And so let's talk about why you created Zant.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one note I'll also say before I just dive in is last night I actually was looking at different statistics and talking about the difference between that 99% and that 1%, the 99% of startups that fail, that 1% that really make it all the way. And I think it definitely is evolution that gets you there. So yeah, with Zant, about 7 years ago, I was financially independent. I had, unfortunately, part of my story, I had run away from home, and I was pretty much just all by myself. I was struggling to go to school, to afford school. I was struggling to work. I ended up getting a job in New York City, just nothing fancy, working as a server. And that was helping me pay my bills out in New Jersey, where I was able to go to a local college and, was just working full time and going through that kind of cycle of trying to become an adult and cover these costs myself, living in my own bubble of almost survival in many different ways. And at that point, I actually thought I wanted to be an attorney. And so I was going to school studying criminal justice at the start. And that was the path that I was focused on. And I was always a very ambitious young person. So that part of me hadn't changed. But going through so much already personally, I had a lot of extra stress on my life and on myself that I was trying to deal with and cope with that other peers of mine just didn't, because we were in different situations. And in that same point in my life, working in the city, I ended up getting a phone call that literally completely changed my life forever. And it was that a very close friend of mine who I had spoken to only 3 days before had unfortunately passed away by suicide. When that happened in my life, everything in my life changed, because I had so much difficulty coping. The denial was just unreal. It was very difficult for me to even understand what had happened. And then furthermore, try to understand what could have caused this, which is just a battle that, you're never going to win. And so I started dealing with a lot of struggles around that death. And as a young person who was financially independent, who had nobody really to turn to, who had no money, who also didn't have insurance, finding support was really difficult for me. And it was not my first thought. My first thought was not, oh, let me talk to a therapist. I had to go through this process and hit rock bottom to look in the mirror and say, that's not Maggie Rose. I don't even know who that person is staring back at me. And I really did get to that point, and then started that journey of trying to find a therapist, and started that journey of trying to reach out and find support, which is very difficult. And I'm sure anybody who is listening to this, or anybody who's gone through that journey, especially for the first time, and especially if you are the type of person who held stigma around that journey, it is very difficult to retell your story and even get that story out in a very vulnerable place, and then try to find somebody who would be willing to see you. And it took me quite some time until I had one therapist who took a chance on me and said, Maggie Rose, listen, if you commit to this journey, it will be the hardest journey that you have right now. But if you commit to this journey, I'm willing to help you for only $10 a session. And that just saved my life and really changed the next steps for me in my life. And so, of course, overnight, I didn't go, oh, I'm going to start a company. Oh, I'm going to build a company. But it was a journey. It was a progressive journey of evolving myself. So when we talk about evolution, it really was evolving myself at that point. I ended up going back to school, changed my major, studied psychology, did a minor in business. And honestly, at that point, I thought maybe I wanted to be a therapist. So it still didn't jump out at me that it was time to start a company, or that there was even a company to start. But it was going through that journey of healing and understanding that fragmented and broken system myself, and also never wanting anybody to feel like my friend might have felt, that created this sense of urgency to help other young people. And for me, throughout those few years, it was really 5 of those 7 years, where I was joining advocacy programs and advocacy groups, and I was participating in nonprofit work, and I was trying to participate in different programs that were on campus, and really understand where there were more fragments of that system for young people. COVID hit, And coming through COVID, there was this moment where I just thought there has to be something else. There has to be something that we can do to just bring therapists like the one that I had, the one that held me at $10 a session, bring them onto a platform to help other young people for $10 a session. How could we connect them? And for me, it was, okay, let's build a mobile app. I had no idea how to do that. I wasn't a technologist. I wasn't a developer. So I had to go out and build a team that really, it was like the blind leading the blind because I really didn't know how to do that. And I was just fueled by passion. My pain had turned to passion, fueled by passion, and said, let's start with a mobile app and use this as a connection between that group of very kind, caring, altruistic therapists and young people who are desperately in need, who need to go online in the middle of the night because they're in the middle of Montana somewhere and they need somebody to talk to who's not going to hang up the phone. They're never going to get back to that person again.
And, you know,
they needed consistency.
Let's just like recap this for a second, because most founders are creating a solution for a problem they encountered. And that's exactly what you were doing. You, at that time, did not have supportive family for your own personal reasons. You also had just lost this dear, dear friend to suicide and needed some therapy yourself, but were not in a position to afford it. And then, like you said, over time realized this was your passion and your purpose to create Zant, Z-A-N-T, this app that was going to help people in need of the mental health care to connect to therapists. And you've expanded that to coaches and counselors as well. And so whether it's an addiction problem or you're feeling suicidal or just maybe feeling depressed or in need to talk to someone, you've created this app to help with that situation. And what I love most about it, besides it being affordable, is that the big picture that you shared with me, and I want you to expound on it, is that these people, the coaches, the counselors, the therapists, spend so much of their time on paperwork and admin and marketing, like 80% of their time on that and 20% with the patients. And you want it to flip that. And I think that's the genius of what you're doing as well. And let's address that too, how you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's almost like its own loophole. So as we started evolving, again, using that same word, when we first started, we said, let's just call therapists, cold call them, and let's just ask them to work at $10 a session. And that process, I had so many no's and so many hangups. That process didn't work. So what we started to realize is, how can we turn that no into a yes? And so looking at the market, we found coming out of COVID, so many therapists, and I'm using therapists because at the time that's what we were focused on, using the data that we saw with therapists, they were trying to manage their practice digitally. So of course, coming onto a mobile app to help people, as good as that sounds, and as much as they do want to help, because this is their profession, they're here to help, you know, it was not something that they had time for because they already had so many other technologies that they were trying to use to manage their practice. And so I thought, well, wonder if we could just make it so simple for them to just open up time. They would automatically get paid and they just had to show up. Just give us an hour a week to help people at that low cost. And so that actually started the process of saying, well, how do we do that? It was adding in-app videos, so they didn't have to worry about all these different video platforms. It was adding an instant payment so that they didn't have to invoice somebody for $10 to $20, you know, and chase after them for that. It was adding in an automated calendar to replace Calendly so that they could just come in and open time up. And then we added in other little features like income tracking so that the end of the year tax season was really easy, time tracking. They had instant chat so that they could directly message their clients. And then we partnered with a national partner to make us HIPAA compliant so that they never had to have those concerns. So now when we were going to professionals and saying, hey, this is how easy it is to help other people on our platform, we all of a sudden started getting some yeses. And when those providers started joining us and they started using our platform, eventually they started coming to me because I was building relationships with them. And they said, Maggie Rose, can I use this for my private practice? Can I use this for my clients? Because honestly, this is so easy to use. And maybe it would give me more time to give back to people. So they knew the right things to say to me, because at first I said, whoa, that's not the point of Zant. But then I was like, well, maybe there's something here. So we tested it out in 2023 and we marketed ourselves as a practice in your pocket. And we expanded outside of just therapy. We added in life coaching, because we also believe that while therapy, is so critical to so many people's lives, and especially if you're going through things, you're dealing with trauma, you're going through even burnout, stress, anxiety, all of those, a therapist is going to be able to help you. But we also started to see some people who maybe weren't at that point that they needed therapy, or maybe they had gone through therapy and they just needed coaching. We found that that was still also preventative in many ways. So we opened ourselves up to coaching services. And when we did that, we went from 10 to 100 providers in 2023. And I'll tell you that throughout that journey, we started realizing that loophole that I mentioned in the beginning was really being able to help the people helping people would help us help more people. So when we realized that we could do that, we dove into the research, and yes, we found that mental health professionals and coach and counselors should only expect to put 20% of their time to client sessions. That's where they make the difference. That's where they make the impact. That's where they help people. Well, we want to change that so that they can put 80% of their time, and imagine what that difference does for this country, for this world, for those in need, when you now have providers who are triple, quadrupling the time that they have to give back and actually giving it to people in need. How many more clients can they serve? How many more people can they support? How much more of an impact can they make? And can they make it with Zant? And for us, the answer is yes.
It would seem to me that also with the technology cutting down on their admin and marketing and paperwork, that it's something they could use throughout their entire practice, whether it be for the $10 clients that they're helping out or their regular clients. So I think you're really onto something there. I think it's a game changer. Nothing's more valuable to people than their time. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And you know what? It's funny because now that we've launched our web version of the platform, it's our almighty version of the platform, and we went in that exact direction, Catherine. We ended up saying, you know what? If you can manage your practice in one place, we can help you with the admin headaches. We can help you with marketing. We give you a CRM for your clients. We help you engage with new clients. We give you lead generation. If we could help you as a professional in that capacity, and then give you an opportunity in your extra time to give back to people in need through our marketplace and through special programs that you can enroll into. Now that platform becomes the intersection between private practice management and marketplace management and marketplace support. Because when you go to another marketplace app today, as a professional, your rates and how much you can make are regulated by that marketplace, by the company. You also are not able to move those clients off of that app and into a private practice without violating their policies. And once you leave that app behind, you leave all the features that you liked so much behind. And if you stay on that platform, there's a lot of inconsistencies and difficulties that you might run into that you can't support that person in your private practice, right? And in your private practice, you're trying to grow your practice. How do you reach out to people? How do you make more of that impact? How do you have time to run this business while you're also trying to help people? So when we brought those two together and said, hey, wait, you can actually go into our marketplace and you can actually acquire clients in the marketplace and move them under the same private practice software that you're using. Now that in itself frees up your time. You don't have to worry about this shift in well, I really like the features on this app and I was able to manage that client really well, but it wasn't in my private practice and it was limiting and da da da. You can now manage all of that under one umbrella, and that's with Zant. And that allows us to impact not only our marketplace, but it actually allows us to help those providers better serve their own clients.
I love that. So they can actually use this app for their entire practice. That is,
yes.
That's amazing. And really, I love your terminology. What was it? Office in your pocket?
Practice in your pocket.
Practice in your pocket. Love it.
And now we're on the web. Now we're on the web. So you can also go on the web and you can use the platform on the web if you're not the type of person who likes to carry it around in your pocket.
Yeah, I think it's genius. What counselors, coaches, therapists don't want something that's digital, that helps optimize their time, helps them find clients, helps them with the marketing, helps them with the management of their company. I think it's fantastic. I think it's an amazing story of how you got to that point and even pivoted in your own life as to what you were going to be doing. But that is the way most of these inventions happen. It's out of need and necessity and seeing a solution. We always can see the problem, but it's the genius entrepreneurs that see the solution, and I love that. So people can find Zant online or download the app.
Yes. So you can find all this information at Zant.app, and that's ZANT.app. And we have our web version, we have our mobile version. Very excited about it. And there's so much more to come too.
I love that. So if you're a coach, a counselor, a therapist, you can go, or a patient, you can go to Zant.app, A-P-P. And I just love what you're doing. Thank you for sharing the personal story of why you started it. And I just think you're an amazing young lady. I know you're out there fundraising most of the entrepreneurs with these great startup ideas. So great opportunity for people to reach out to you on that level as well. And thank you so much for being on today. Look forward to seeing you in the future. And where do people find you? I take it, Maggie Rose Macar, you are on LinkedIn.
Yes, that is like my favorite and only social media channel that I'm actually active on. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Maggie Rose Macar. You can follow us if you go to the website, Zant.app. You'll be able to find all of our information there, find out how to join from the user side, provider side, and even partner side.
Great. Well, everybody, whether you need to use it for your practice or for yourself, look up Zant.app. Check out Maggie Rose Macar on LinkedIn. I, of course, am on LinkedIn as well. Catherine Gray, Catherine with a C and Gray with an A if you're just listening in. SheAngelInvestors.com is our website. We have plenty of resources like our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business. And then, of course, visit our movie site, ShowHerTheMoneyMovie.com. You can find out where and how to see the movie about how women are only getting less than 2% of venture capital funding and how you can be part of helping us to change that. This is the future, women creating amazing innovations that are going to impact the planet and our future. So thank you for taking the time to tune in. Remember to invest in her. Maggie, thanks for being a great guest. Make it a great week, everybody.